Right, so in this video, we're going to kind of go over the different groups that are built into the Business Connect system. So for that, we're going to go into phone systems, groups, and kind of just give you a quick overview of each of these sections. So a call queue is basically a group that you can have multiple users a part of. So if we click on one of these call queues that was already created, it has a similar look to how the users are. If your call queue details where you can change the extension or the group name of the call queue and email address associated to them. Under settings, you have, again, the time zone as well as the hours the call queue is available. Really nothing under the direct number section. Greeting and hold music, similar to that of a user. You have a call queue greeting, which is kind of like an intro message that would play before it goes to the audio while connecting. The one thing different with the audio while connecting, you can still going to have the same options in terms of ringtones, music, or custom. But you have an interrupt feature. So as the calls are coming in, if they're waiting for an extended period of time, you can have an interruption play anywhere from 15 seconds to 60 every 60 seconds, just advising them. So the default here, thank you for holding. Please continue to stay on the line. But you can also hit edit and customize that using any one of the options. And I just noticed that under default, there are a few different other options if you prefer that. And then once again, hold music, which is similar to that of users. The call handling and members is one section that's a bit different. So under a call queue, you'd basically have a certain amount of users that would be taking calls. Right now, I don't have anybody, but I'll add some members. Add all everybody. So basically here, we're not adding specific phones to what's going to be ringing. We're adding the actual users. So if the user itself has their phone or their cell phone set to ring under them, that's what's going to happen when they're part of this call queue. So under the call queue, we have three different options. We have rotating, which is kind of just swapping back and forth between users. You have simultaneous, which is basically ring everyone at the same time, or sequential, in which case then you have an order and it's going to be going through them one by one. When you choose sequential, then you have an option here, how many rings before it moves on to the next individual. When you choose simultaneous, there is no option. They all have this after the call wrap up time. How long is it before they're available again? Usually set that to 0 seconds. If you think of a call center, it may actually need some time. So once they hang up the call, like a minute or so to jot down last minute notes, close off the ticket, and then be available for the next customer that's waiting for them. And then rotating as well, number of rings before it's going to try the next person to try and get a hold of somebody. With all of these settings, these are just the basic settings. You end up getting more settings under the wait settings option. So we'll save. So under wait settings, here you'll be able to actually, like every section has kind of a breakdown of what you can do, but it says number of callers allowed in the queue. So if you have 4 users in the queue and they're all on a call, you may want to just keep it to a number of 5 calls that can be in the queue, meaning the 6th person that would call at the same time would basically be sent straight to voicemail if that's what your options are. When the queue is full, in this case it says advise callers of high volumes, but you can choose send to voicemail. You can increase that number up to 25 people, meaning 25 people would be waiting on hold for someone to be available. Then you have the maximum caller wait time. So that's basically how long before they get sent to voicemail. You can go pretty much to a point where it's don't wait, they get sent straight to voicemail, all the way up to a 15-minute hold time. It's kind of the generic settings under there, and then display settings is another thing that we find a little fun. You can have the queue name display when calls are coming in. So if you had an IVR built, you press 1 and it goes to one call queue, which is English, and they press 2 and it goes to another call queue, which is French. Then when they choose that and you have individual users in each call queue, you would see that somebody chose English option on your actual phone screen. It would display the queue name. So if we named it English and we named it French, you know that somebody chose it and you can answer accordingly. And then the call queues themselves come with their own voicemail, similar to the other ones. If you wanted to edit this voicemail, you hit edit, custom, in this case, or re-record. You have those options to put in your own custom voicemail. And then rather than the voicemail staying within the queue, you could have it go to a specific individual and actually have it saved to receptionist's phone so that they can monitor those voicemails. That's just a basic overview of call queues. With paging only, so paging only groups, um, basically when you create a new paging group, put in the name test. The extension is relevant. You'll need that extension to access this actual paging group. So on your physical phones, the 4 soft keys below the screen, there should be one button that would say page, and when you hit that, it's going to ask you for the extension. That's where you would normally put in 105, and then I think it's followed by pound. In your paging group, you can basically choose what devices would receive the pages. So if you actually had an actual paging adapter that's tied into your amplifier, then that would most likely be the only one that you would want to receive the pages. In other cases, if you don't have an overhead paging system, you could just have it so that all the phones receive page, and then you could just select all the phones. And then you want to give permission to who's allowed to page it. Maybe you know that there's phones that are in the cafeteria, they don't need to page, but you want all the staff members in their offices to be able to make pages, or just the front desk to be able to make pages. So then you can choose who has permission to actually page. Then you got park locations. So we did mention this when we were going over user settings. So parking lots are basically virtual holding spots for customers, and then we usually assign them to actual presence keys. So one of the buttons that are to the left or the right of the phone screen. Then when we have that actually set up, when we create these little parking lots, um, the actual name and extension. The name is relevant in the sense that that's what's going to display on that presence screen. So some people that are used to their phone line, their copper analog systems, they're maybe used to just having that terminology: line 1, line 2, line 3, etc. But you could also name them hold 1, park 1, whatever you kind of choose. Um, then location members. We basically have to give permission to who would be able to access this parking lot. So once we give everyone permission, we can go into each user, go to their presence, and assign hold 1 to one of the buttons that's assigned to their physical phones. Call pickup. So it kind of gives you an idea. Directed, the call pickup allows group members to answer incoming calls, ringing on other members' phones from their device. So it gives other people the ability to answer calls that are coming in. And it can create, when you create the group, you can name it whatever you want. And basically, what you want to do is just assign multiple members. Once you assign multiple users, the ones that are supposed to be allowed to answer each other's calls, it advises you directed call pickup allows members to pick up other members' calls by dialing *58 followed by the ringing extension number. So if I put like 3, let's say we'll put everybody in this group. So this would work a lot better when you're in kind of a sales atmosphere, or some kind of atmosphere where phones are within distance of each other that you can kind of tell who's ringing. So let's say test 2 was close to the receptionist, and they can tell that the receptionist's phone is ringing. but the receptionist went to the washroom or is on break. Um, then test two could hit star 58 on their phone and then dial the extension for the receptionist 103. That will basically intercept the call for the receptionist. Um, it's a nice little quick way to try and be able to save some phone calls when people are kind of in and out and all around. Then the next section is message only. So this is a voicemail only group. Basically, um, sometimes when we set up after hours or alternative voicemails, we'll just create a voicemail only extension so that it basically, instead of going to the user and ringing their phones or going to the user and setting their hours to match the business hours so that it'll enable it to just go straight to voicemail, we could just create a voicemail only group. If we go over these sections, basically extension, name of the group, the email address that it would be going to, really again, nothing under the direct number section. Messages and notifications, so this is where you would edit your voicemail. So hit edit, you go to custom, and you can basically record your voicemail. And then in this case, once again, you can choose to go to a specific extension and have it actually go to the receptionist so it shows up on their phone. And this way, then, when we get into the section of the auto receptionist and we're dealing with like the main calls coming in during business hours or after hours, you could just have a voicemail as your after hours. And thus, when anyone calls outside of your business hours, it just goes straight to this voicemail. It's a different voicemail than what you have for your users, but in the end, it can end up directly on somebody's phone. And similar to the voicemail only, there is announcement only group as well, where it would just basically play an audio clip, but it wouldn't take any messages. So if you wanted that option where you just kind of, advise people that you guys are closed, there's a snowstorm, you won't be at the business today, you can create an announcement only option that just kind of plays that audio clip to advise people of what's going on, and then pretty much call it a day. That's a quick overview of the different groups that you can create within the Telus Business Connect. Hope that helps. Thanks.